Good morning, everybody. It's great to see everybody on a bright, sunny Tuesday morning in Columbus, Ohio. I wish we could all be together because that would, I think, be probably a lot more interesting and a lot more fun. But over the last couple of years, we have all, I think, come to be experts at this virtual thing. So hopefully today will be very promising and refreshing for everybody on what we're going to be talking about. So today is primarily focused on the Ohio Federal Research Network Opportunity Days, which is brought to you by the Ohio Federal Research Network, managed by Parallax Advanced Research in collaboration with The Ohio State University and funded by the the Ohio Department of Higher Education. I'm Mark Bartman, Major General retired, United States Air Force. Some of you may know me from my previous job as the Adjutant General for the state of Ohio from 2015 to 2019, and as a member of the former governor's cabinet during that time period. But I spent 37 years in the Air Force, and much of that time here in Ohio in the Ohio National Guard. So today I'd like to recognize the team, because as anybody knows that's tried to put on one of these things, you know that it's not any individual, it's a team effort to be successful. So in recognizing that team, Karen Posey, Matt Bush, Becky Mesher, Jess Pacheco, Emma Warner, and Meredith Brumfield. So thank you to all of those individuals for everything that you did. And for those of you that were able to participate in the breakout rooms here this morning, leading up to the sort of the main event, the volunteers that helped out and led some of those discussions, I'd like to thank and recognize some of those individuals. So Chris Mather, who is a senior consultant to the APEX program, Dave Nestick, who works with Parallax Advanced Research as their Director of Technology Commercialization, and is also the APEX Cybersitter Senior Consultant. Dr. Kate Gilpin, Parallax Director of National Engagement, supporting the APEX program. And last but not least, Marty Kress, Senior Advisor to Parallax Advanced Research, supporting the Ohio Federal Research Network, and a personal friend for many years with Ohio State University. So before we get started with the program, just a couple of quick features that I want to make sure everybody is engaged with and understands kind of how this is going to work today. So for technical issues, if you are having problems, please use the chat and let either Jess or Becky know what the issue is, and we will try to, or Emma, and we will try to get that figured out as quickly as possible to make sure that your experience here today is as enjoyable as it could be. Throughout the event, if you have any questions or comments for the presenters, again, please use the chat feature. Questions will be answered during the Q&A portion, and this is important because that will follow the three very important guest speakers that we have today on the presentations. So I know sometimes it's difficult. It always is for me. I always tend to, I think of a question and then I forget it 2 seconds later. So if you have a question, you might want to write it down or something, or go ahead and put it in the chat. And Jess and Becky and Emma will make sure that we get that answered later on. Please feel free, if you're more comfortable coming up on audio, and use the raise hand feature that's found typically at the bottom of your screen in the reactions options area down there. And then we will try to get to you as soon as we can possibly do that, or as soon as we notice that your hand happens to be raised on the screen. If we are unable to get to your question today, then first of all, I apologize. I'm hoping that there'll be way more questions than we have time to answer today, but we'll follow up with you via email and connections, or they'll be posted on the website. Periodically, you may see a poll conducted during today, so I highly encourage that you all participate in the polls. That again will help us out when it comes to future opportunity days and making this again a much richer environment for all of our participants, including you all. So if I could, we'd like to just do a quick update on where Ohio Federal Research Network stands at this point. So next slide, if you would, please. So just a very brief overview. So the Ohio Federal Research Network's construct is essentially set up around our federal partners. And you will hear from some of these individuals that work with these federal partners here today. But essentially, it's the NASA Glenn Research Center, the Air Force Research Lab, the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, the Navy Medical Research Unit in Dayton, and the Ohio National Guard actually does play a role in providing input into some of the areas that are looked at. Now, all of this, of course, is funded through the state of Ohio and matches up through the industry needs that we see out there across the state of Ohio. And then it's managed by Parallax Advanced Research and the Ohio State University. And you can see at the bottom there in the two green boxes, the Executive Review Board and the Technical Review Council. Those are entities that are the ones that review all of the inputs to each of the rounds that the Ohio Federal Research Network funds. And so far, we're up to through round 5. We would probably predict that round 6 will start sometime maybe a year from now, plus or minus a few months there for that. So next slide, please. So just a sort of again a 50,000 foot view of where the focus really is when it comes to the Ohio Federal Research Network. And this is very important because if your project and what you're thinking of is what would be considered basic research, it will not make it into the potential area for funding for the Ohio Federal Research Network. So we are looking specifically at projects and teams that can be put together to work sort of the 6.2, maybe even 6.3 area when it comes to the funding and the way that DoD handles that. And at the bottom, you can kind of see how that relates to TRL levels for those that maybe are not real familiar with that. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview. This is kind of where we're at after the first 5 rounds of the Ohio Federal Research Network. You can see that in the state of Ohio, we've engaged 21 universities or colleges. I mentioned those 4 main government partners, and the +1 is the Ohio National Guard. Over 97 business partners so far, and you can see the numbers on the number of indirect jobs and direct jobs that have been created. And so far, 10 spin-out companies have been created from these first 5 rounds, and I'll go more into that here in just a moment. Along the bottom, you can kind of see a summary of where the funding currently stands for the Ohio Federal Research Network and the teams and what their follow-on funding has been awarded so far. So over $200 million in follow-on funding to the different teams that we've been able to fund so far through the first 5 rounds. Next slide, please. So this is a PDF document. It is on the Ohio Federal Research website. The website is listed there on the bottom left, and I'm going to ask if maybe Jess or somebody could copy and throw that into the chat. I would really appreciate it. I'm not quite coordinated enough, I don't think, to talk and do that at the same time. The PDF, though, the nice thing about this is that it is interactive. And so when you open the PDF, you will be able to click on any one of the projects that have been funded through the first 5 rounds. It will take you to a project description on the Ohio Federal Research Network's website. So if you're interested in seeing what some of the projects are and where the focus has been over these first 5 rounds, then you'll be able to do that. And as you can see, just from sort of this pictorial description here, the focus for the first 5 rounds anyways, has been primarily on what you might call agility prime, that the Air Force terminology that they use, or small UAS development, or the infrastructure or ecosystem when it comes to advanced air mobility here in the state of Ohio. So that's sort of been the general focus. And it could be, as you see on this slide, anything from control to sensors and awareness to the airspace, to command and control, to propulsion. Those are the types of things so far that have been funded. No guarantees. And I'm not making any statements now as to what the areas of interest from our federal partners may be for the next round, round 6, when we start putting that together for that. So there could be variations based on some of the new interest areas that our federal partners have, and some of the new topics interest that are out there. So next slide, please. This is more because I like to tout the great things that the state of Ohio has done. But as you can see, Ohio actually is #2 in the country when it comes to STT awards based off of the Air Force's Agility Prime, which was, for those that are familiar with that, was held in the summer of, or it started in the summer of 2020 for the phase 1s anyways. And it was the X20.D was the solicitation that the Air Force used for that. So we've been very successful when it comes to being able to get funding for the teams that we put together. Next slide, please. This is just another kind of way to look at the total number of SBIR awards that our teams have garnered so far, primarily through round 4, 1 through 4, since 5 actually just started here recently. You can see on the left, the majority of those awards are from the Air Force, but we do cut across many of the other services as well as the federal agencies that are out there. And then on the right-hand side of the slide is a breakout of the number of awards per round. Next slide, please. So this is just a kind of, again, a different way to display. So you can, on that big round circle on the left-hand side, it's by round on the inside. So it says 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the different colors. And then it breaks out the agencies and the amount of money that were awarded through SBIR to the teams that we have. And of course, on the right-hand side is a summation of those awards by round, and then of course also by agency. So you can see the vast majority, of course, is from the Air Force. That we do have the Air Force Research Lab here in the state of Ohio at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So we do work a lot with them. But as you can also see, of course, the numbers below that for some of the other agencies. And as we move forward, we will continue to work very diligently with many of these other federal agencies that are out there, including things like ARPA, the many variations of the ARPAs that the Department of Defense and the federal government currently funds. Next slide, please. Just another example. So I mentioned earlier about the spin-out companies. So this is just a small sample of the spin-out companies that Ohio Federal Research Network has been able to start. By far, obviously, the one at the very bottom, Tangram Flex, has probably been the most successful, as you can see, by so far being awarded almost $160 million in grants from all those different agencies that you see on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, you can see where some of the other 4 spin-out companies that were mentioned earlier, and the different areas of funding that they received, either from the Small Business Association, DARPA, as I mentioned, DOE, Navy, NASA, or other organizations. Next slide, please. And so we have done the opportunity days once before, and then of course, working with many of the partners in the first 4 rounds primarily, we've done different surveys out there. So the good news is that if you look at the bottom left-hand side of the slide, you will see that many of our partners and our customers have been very happy and supportive of what we have been able to do within the Ohio Federal Research Network to be able to help develop technologies that will make primarily the advanced air mobility ecosystem here in the state of Ohio much better, but also helps advance these companies, helps advance academia and research in the state of Ohio in particular, and makes us, I think, a competitor on the national stage. On the right-hand side, just an example of some of the results based off of questions that we asked, when it says, what benefits have you gained from the Ohio Federal Research Network? And of course, I think we probably got the answer we were expecting, but that is that because what we do is we connect individuals to industry partners, to academic partners, or to federal partners. So those were the highest results that we received from this particular poll. Next slide, please. So that is a very quick update. We can post these slides later after today if you're interested in reviewing any of the slides, or if you have any other specific questions on that.